The car audio buying experience can be overwhelming at times. If you go into a car audio store these days, you'll be met with walls of stereos, walls of amplifiers, a sea of different speakers, subwoofers stacked down one wall all the way from one end to the other, and a guy meets you at the door, and you know in your heart of hearts, all he wants to do is take your money. And that is what you get. That's the experience you get at a modern car audio store, with some exceptions. And I'll get to some of those. But for now, we're going to go with that because that's the general run of the mill. And of course, if you go online, it's even worse. There's 1,000 companies out there making tens of thousands of different products. How do you pick what you're going to use? All I know is I want some bass in my car and I want it to sound better. Now, you're up to the mercy of someone who wants to make as much money as possible from your desire to have some bass and sound better. You know, they're not going to be making choices based on what is going to be best for you. They're going to be making choices based on what makes them the most profit. It is what it is. So you search online and you stumble across this video or some like it. And honestly, that's your best place to get information, because I don't gain anything based on what you decide to do. You could go buy a drinking straw and stick it into your earbud and plug that into your ear, and I'm just going to be just as happy as if you went and spent $10 million on the best equipment in the world. Doesn't make me any difference. I'm here to help. That's what I'm doing. So, let's start at the beginning. So you got your car. The first thing I'm going to tell you to do is use certain tools, because I don't know what car you have. I can't answer every comment that's going to be asking me millions of questions. So I'm going to tell you where to find good information to help you zero in on things. So take whatever car you have and go to Crutchfield. Google Crutchfield. 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 Google that. You'll have a thing on there where you fill out a form saying I have a Ford Taurus 1999 blah 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 so and so edition. Bam. Okay. If you're confused about anything in there, like if it says is it an SC or an SEL or FX, and you don't know, just check one of them and move on. When you get to the point to where you are past all this, you can compare the differences, and you can, most of the time, those things won't really matter. So, you put all that into your Crutchfield form, and then it's going to give you a whole list of stuff that you can possibly get. It's going to say, these are the types of door speakers. These are the types of dash speakers. These are the head units that can fit. These are the different things. And so you know now, okay, now you know what fits in your car factory without making any modifications. That's a great starting point. Would a salesman be able to tell you this? Yes, but he would probably go use Crutchfield to find out. Just saying. Besides that, you now know what fits. At least you've narrowed that huge sea of stuff down to a slightly smaller sea of stuff. All right. So the next thing you need to do is figure out what you're looking for specifically. If you want to add some bass to your car, well, in that case, you're going to want to add a subwoofer. And it could be an amplified subwoofer, or it could be a subwoofer with an amplifier. Separate. Either way it goes, you want to match those two up to some degree. If you're going to get a subwoofer that's, say, a 200 watt RMS subwoofer, you're going to be looking for an amplifier that does 200 to 500 watts, 100 to 500, somewhere in that range. You don't want to go too much more powerful than your sub, or you might end up damaging it. And of course, you need to know what the ohm load is on the subwoofer. So if the subwoofer has a dual 2 ohm coil, or it can be run at either 4 ohms or 1 ohm. If it has a dual 4 ohm coil, it can be run at 8 ohms or 2 ohms. All right. Now, I just gave you that information. You don't have to look that up. It's really that simple. Or if it's a single voice coil 4 ohm coil, obviously it's 4 ohms. All right. And your amplifier will have a rating on it. It'll say, I can make this much power at this many ohms. A 500 watt sub and amp is going to be quite impactful and quite loud in your vehicle. You're going to hear that real well. It's going to be solid. It's going to be thumping in your chest. It's going to feel good. If you're not trying to scare the neighbors, 500 to 1,000 watts on a subwoofer is going to be more than enough for 90 to 95% of people that want bass. Unless you're trying to be a bit of a hoodlum, and it's okay if that's what you're wanting to do. Not dissing on you for that. But unless you're trying to be a bit of a hoodlum, 500 to 1,000 watts, it will complement a system and sound amazing. And give you quite a lot of low-end grunt. You'd be surprised what kind of power you can get out of that. So, that's the other catch. Anytime you're going over about 1,000 watts, you're going to have to do some pretty serious upgrades to your electrical system in your car just to be able to provide the power to that amplifier. So consider, unless you're wanting to make major changes in your car overall, keeping your entire electrical demand below about 1,000 watts. So if you're going to use an amplifier for, say, your front tweeters and your mid-ranges, your door speakers and your dash speakers, and you're going to add extra power and replace those, and you're going to add a subwoofer and all that, consider using like 2 amplifiers that produce a less than 1,000 watts across the board, or a 5-channel amp that's like a 1,000 watt 5-channel amp that gives you maybe 75 watts per channel on 4 channels and blah blah blah, and 500 watts on the sub. Something that's going to consume less than or produce less than 1,000 watts, and that's going to be about 100 amps of draw at full tilt boogie on a sine wave note. It's going to make around about 100 amps of draw, and your car in a stock configuration cannot sustain 100 amps of draw, but you can handle bursts of 100 amps. So 1,000 watts is about as high as I would want to go on a completely stock electrical system without changing out any cables, without adding extra batteries, changing out your alternator, all that stuff. If you keep it below 1,000 watts total output, you'll probably be just about okay. Having said that, you want to run digital amplification, Class D amplifiers. And the reason is Class A and Class AB are much less efficient, so they give you less power output versus the amount of power they take in. Class D amplifiers is a good call. So you got your equipment put into the Crutchfield thing. It tells you what you can buy. And then you start looking down the list and you go, man, I just don't know. There's so many. And we're still there. Even when we narrow down your car to the specific drivers, which odds are going to be 2 6.5s, 1 in each door, probably 2 more 6.5s in the rear doors, if you have rear doors, and maybe some tweeters up in the 8-pinner. That's very common layout. Which is why most of the people in the shop can tell you what goes in your car. Unless it's an oddball, it uses that basic equipment. They already know that's probably the case. And plus, they've already done that car before. Especially if it's something fairly common like a Ford Taurus or a Ford F-150 or a Chevy Camaro or, whatever. They've probably done 100 of them, so they know exactly what goes in there. Now, the problem of going through all the different possible choices for those speakers and those components you're going to use. Well, there's basically two ways you can go about solving that problem. One way is to research. Dig, dig, dig. Go on the internet and look for reviews on different pieces of equipment and compare. This is a long process, and you have to devote and dedicate a lot of time and effort and brain cells into making that work, to getting through this, to getting the result out of this process. The second way to do it is to go to somebody who you trust, who knows something about car audio, and get them to pitch in, because they can help you zero in and knock out a whole lot of stuff. And typically you want to stay away from stuff that you'll find at Walmart. It's probably not going to give you the best results. It tends to be cheaper. Now, that doesn't mean the brand that you find there is bad. Like, for example, Kicker is at Walmart. I think Rockford Fosgate has stuff at Walmart. There's other companies that have equipment there, but it's made specifically for Walmart, and it's not the best quality. It's kind of on the cheap side. If you want another good way of looking and picking and finding out what's up, go to the list of drivers that pop up on the Crutchfield site and select to sort it by reviews. And go for the highest reviews. Look at those. Look for high reviews with also has a lot of reviews. So it's a 5-star review with 8,000 people is going to be awesome. Even if it's a 4-star review with, say, 5,000 people versus a 5-star review with 100 people, I'm more game to go with that 4-star review, because a bigger sample of people have used this, and so it's going to be a much more rounded overall score. That's another good place to start. You can sort that way. You can look at that top 10, and you can pick something in there that's in your price range. Now that you know a little bit more about how to find the equipment that fits in your car and how to comb through the possible pieces that you need to get that sweet spot of a specific item that you need, the next question is, well, what all do you want to do? Because you could do so many different things. And boy, I'm telling you, just trying to explain this is hard for me to put it into words. But my advice, I go with what I tell everybody. When someone says, hey man, I want a new stereo system, what do you suggest? I said, well, you're looking for something that's loud. Yeah, I want it to be pretty loud. I want it to be, I want to rock out, I don't want to, break windows, but, okay. That gives me an idea where you want to get, right? You want some oomph. You want it to sound good, like you're at a concert. You want it to sound beautiful sound stage, pinpoint instruments. Things are all just as they should be. And it makes you want to sit in your cars for hours and hours and listen to the radio, because the music sounds so good. You don't even want to go in the house. You just want to stay there in your little envelope and just melt your brain with music. And that's this person watching the video. I just hit the nail on the head, didn't I? That's you. Now, most likely, people are going to say, yeah, that sounds awesome. Okay, well, here's the first step. The first step is either to buy a 5-channel amplifier and that has a digital signal processor in it, or B, buy a 5-channel amplifier and a digital signal processor, or C, buy a 4-channel amplifier and a subwoofer amplifier and the digital signal processor. Or D, buy, you know, 2 4-channel amplifiers and a sub and a digital signal processor. The point I'm making is, what you need as a foundation is the way to digital signal process at least 5 channels of amplified output. However you get there, it's purely up to you. Now, the reason I say this is the foundation, the first piece, is because this is where the magic happens. Replacing your speakers and your doors, your dash, you're not going to notice any upgrade there. In fact, it may sound significantly worse with aftermarket speakers than it did with the speakers that came in a car. It's going to be crap. Replacing the head unit is only going to be a real upgrade if you're getting a function out of the new head unit that you didn't have before. For example, if your car didn't have Bluetooth, or if your car doesn't have some kind of Wi-Fi connection, or the ability to play this type of the CDs or whatever, you're getting something in the head unit that you didn't have before. That's the only real thing you're going to feel. It's not going to sound any better. Hell, again, like I said, it may even sound worse. But even leaving your existing factory head unit and your existing factory speakers, putting an amplifier in on them with a DSP to process the sound will, right by that, just those things alone will make a marked improvement on your sound quality. And then when you replace those door speakers and those dash speakers and all that with a newer, better equipment, you'll see another big upgrade. It's the foundation is something that can process the sound and give you complete control over processing and manipulating that sound, and an amplifier for it to work through to send power out to everything. That is the literal foundation for a good sounding system. So if you want to keep it easy, you buy a 5-channel amplifier with a digital signal processor in it. Problem solved. The problem is that is an end. You can't build on that, really. You're going to have to replace parts of it to build on it. If you go that route and just later on you go, well, I want to add 2 more channels and be able to control them separately, you're going to need another 2-channel amplifier, and then you got to hope that that 5-channel actually has 2 more outputs where you can control them from that DSP internally, or your DSP won't work with those 2 channels. You see, it's a dead end. You know, if you're going to stop there, it's fine, but you just got to make sure it supports growth. However, buying a 4-channel amp or a 5-channel amp, a 4-channel amp and a sub amp, or a 5-channel amp and a digital signal processor, now you've got layers. You see, you could add another amplifier and still use the same processor. You know, you could change the processor. You could not use the processor. You can break it up into pieces. It's like having Legos. You can build the thing, and you can unbuild it and rebuild it. If you start out with a pre-built house, you're stuck with that. You can't, you know, remodel it, if you will. So using separate components is going to give you the ability to upgrade it in the future without having to replace a bunch of equipment or make something redundant, right? For example, if you've got a 5-channel amp and you decide that you want more power on your subwoofer, you got to buy another amplifier just to amplify your subwoofer. Now you've got a 5th channel, which you're not really doing anything with. It's redundant. I mean, you could always use it for something later, but it's still a redundant thing, see? So that's why going separate gives you more room for growth. Now, on the same note, going with a 5-channel or 6-channel or 8-channel amplifier with a DSP built into it and all that, if you never intend to go past this, and you're sure that you're not, it'll give you less space consumed, less wiring, less, you know, complicated stuff to deal with. It's all in one unit. Now, convenience versus flexibility and serviceability. So, pick which one you want. But the point is, you need a digital signal processor built into or in addition to enough amplifiers to amplify all of your speakers. And that's the starting point. And I would do that unless, like I said, unless you need a function on your head unit that you don't have. I would absolutely do that before I did anything else. Then after you do that and you get that installed and you got it all working, if you're having to do this in steps because of money, which is totally understandable, the next thing to do will be to replace your speakers. Your mids and highs, your 6.5s, your tweeters, replace all those. And the same process goes through there. Sort it by highest rating, and then do a little bit of research on the top 5 that you find there, and find out what people say about them, what the goods and bads are, what they seem like they're better for this music or that music. Research in that, and you'll be able to find out whether or not it's something that's going to fit your use case. After you've replaced that, you've got that electrical system there, you've got the speakers replaced, then you consider a head unit. If you're not already totally happy, the head unit might be the last on the list. But I would do amp, the bottom of the foundation, amp DSPs, then speakers, then head unit. Now, when I say speakers, I'm also including adding a subwoofer. In fact, when you put that amp and DSP and amp setup in there, you're probably going to be adding a sub at that point. Because the thing is, you could use that 5 or 6 channel or however many channels you have an application. You could use one channel just to run your subwoofer until you upgraded, or you can amplify your factory speakers. It doesn't matter. The point is, you want to get that bass in there early on, because the bass is going to be the single biggest upgrade in your car. It's the single biggest improvement that's going to happen is whenever you add that bottom end, and it brings your whole system to life. But just as big of a jump as that is, whenever you experience that for the first time, just as big of a jump is going to be whenever you get those mids and highs replaced, and you got them amplifier power on those mids and highs, and let them suckers really get to work. You're going to hear parts and music that you've never heard before. You're going to notice sounds and songs that you never heard before. It's going to break your mind when you hear a song that you've heard 1,000,000 times and you notice there's chimes in one part, or there's a whole other bass line that falls in behind something and you never caught that. You never even realized it was in the song. And you're going to go, wow, holy crap, and replay the song again, listening for it. Like, wow, it really happens. I had this experience on many occasions with songs that I grew up on, heard them over and over and over again, heard them on nice stereo systems. And all of a sudden I get a good quality setup and I hear them and it comes in just right. And all of a sudden there's a whole new level that your hearing goes to. And the thing is, you'll be chasing that again. Once you get past that car and move on to the next car in your life and you build a new system, it's never going to sound as good as that first time that you heard a really good system and you heard all the nuances in that song. You're never going to have that experience twice. You only get it the once. It's like that first time that you do the one-shot deal. The first time is special. So anyway, I know this is a bit of a chaos video, and that's kind of me. That's how I roll. That's who I am. But hopefully you learned something from it. If not, at least you were entertained. If you stuck around this long, you're either dedicated, just crazy like me, or you're bored out of your gourd. Either way, I love you the same. Doesn't matter to me. And hit that subscribe button. Come back to see me next time, because I'm always doing some crazy stuff. when I have the energy, when my wife lets me, and when it's not too cold outside. Not right. I do crazy stuff as often as I can. So, for now, guys, peace.